Hey everyone, you're watching The Esperanza 243. Today I realized I don't really wear my work outfit often enough in my videos. So I've considered to wear it once every 5 book reading videos, which would be nice for a little continuity thing. If I did not mention in my previous video, which I probably already have, both my sisters graduated from different colleges. My oldest sister graduated from MACC. My middle sister graduated from SLU. The sister who graduated from SLU did have a job offer in Boston, not Baltimore. I was wrong. For some reason, I got the two cities confused. I don't know why. Anyways, I'm not going to complain considering what my middle sister did, considering what my SLU sister did. With that job offer. She turned it down and decided to stay in St. Louis rather than, going to Boston, have her dream job, or not dream job, dream jobs combined in one. It would have been awesome if she took that. If I were her, I would have taken it immediately and make new friends. Because seriously, that's what life's all about. You can't stay in town forever. You can't stay near your family and friends forever. I mean, well, you could, but it would be a lot of psychological damage if you did that. Considering my last relationship. I can't believe I just said that. Anyways, let's get to the reading. Let's do a recap real quick. Part 19 was about Caprice reading 2 letters that were in the envelope that Senor Baldwin had read. Now my ear is hurting. What the brown is going on with my body today? Ow. Anyways, Caprice read the 2 letters. She was surprised that the second letter was from her mom. She finds out that she was actually adopted. And after a good long nap, she experiences a ghostly phenomenon with her grandma in the foyer. And then, of course, the dinner, Senor Pujadas' dinner happened. She wore a really pretty dress. I didn't describe what the dress was, but anyways, at the dinner, there was an exclamation saying that she looked a lot like Princess Mariona. Senor Pujadas decides to make it a joke, making sure that no one actually truly believed that she was related to Princess Mariona. Actually, eating the dinner is over, and so people are leaving. Caprice and one particular woman stays. Let me just start it off right now. I don't use big words often enough, but I should. Hence what I'm going to say afterwards. Let the book reading commence, shall we? After that, the men and women who decided to leave got up and headed out the front door to their rides. The women who were staying with their men stayed in their seats. The rest of the guests headed to the library. Caprice got out of her seat and walked toward him. One of his friends beat her to him. Bruno, dear, you should come over sometime. One of my new servants can make tarte aux pommes, and it is to die for, the woman told him. He smiled. I might do that. He saw Caprice in the corner of his eye. Excuse me. She nodded and headed back to the dining table. He walked to Caprice. I am glad you invited me, Senor Pujadas. I had fun. I am glad you enjoyed the dinner. It was quite entertaining, wasn't it? She giggled. It was. I must say I was surprised when you joined in about my resemblance to Princess Mariona. He giggled. I had to do something. As much as I enjoy a curious conversation, I'd like to keep your secret hidden. She nodded. Yes, I am glad you improvised. I was in a corner for a moment. She smiled in appreciation. He smiled back. I would like to talk to you about my resemblance. She pulled out the envelope, hiding its seal. Senor Pujadas looked around. The men staying were already in the library, their women in the foyer. He led her to a room, currently not being used, and closed its doors. Would you mind keeping this short? I don't like keeping my friends waiting. She winced. I understand, sir. What would you like to talk about? She gave him the envelope. Did Senor Baldwin ever show you this envelope? He showed me, yes, but he wouldn't let me touch it. He took it. I would like it if you would read what's inside. It proves that I am related to Princess Mariona. He gasped. He opened the envelope and discovered 2 letters. After reading both letters, he breathed of surprise. He looked at Caprice. It was quiet. Caprice thought for a while, trying to figure out what to say next. I would like to know... I apologize for my interruption, Miss Caprice. She nodded to accept the apology. There is someone here I want you to meet. She became confused, but interested. After meeting you, I thought of inviting a particular friend who could help you meet a special person of Menavia. Her ears perked of interest, but her eyes looked concerned. Senor Pujadas, you are trying to get me entangled with my family, are you not? He became startled. Then he smiled. You are one bright young lady, despite the bad luck you've been getting. She chuckled and smiled. Please follow me. He led her out of the room to the foyer. As they entered, the women became silent and looked in his direction. They looked so noble. Caprice suddenly felt self-conscious. Signora Fournier, may I speak to you for a few moments? For a few minutes? Senor Pujadas asked one of the women. She got up from her comfortable spot and walked to him. He then took her and Caprice not too far from the foyer. What is it, Bruno? She said with a good French accent. He smiled. I would like you to meet Miss Caprice. Miss Caprice, this is Senora Aina Fournier of Menavia. The woman held out her hand. Caprice held her hand like... the woman held out her hand. Caprice held her hand with a light grip and curtsied. It is nice to meet you, Senora. The woman raised her brows. Oh, what a proper young lady you are, the senora told her. She looked at Senor Pujadas. Bruno, is this the young woman you told me before? He nodded. Miss Caprice can make outfits. The woman gasped. You make your outfits? Caprice nodded. You don't use servants to make them. I do not use servants, she replied, smiling. My mother raised me to make clothes by sight instead of fitting. In fact, I have been using some of my outfits to earn money. That is interesting. I would love to see your work. Caprice smiled. You are looking at one of my pieces. I wear the dresses I make. Signora Fournier gasped and looked at her dress. You did an amazing job, Miss Caprice. She paused. I got an idea. She gave Caprice a look. The Princess of Menavia has been asking for someone to make a stunning outfit for her. I bet you would be perfect for the job. She widened her eyes. You really have connections to the Prince and Princess? I have wanted to meet them all week. All week? Not all your life? Caprice shook her head. I arrived in Inra about a month ago. I lived in Meltrova all my life. The woman gasped. She looked back and forth from Senora Pujadas to Caprice. How could that be? You look just like Princess Mariona. It was quiet for a while. Then Caprice cleared her throat. I shall explain that in due time, Signora Fournier. She paused. I must be going. It is getting late. Must you go? I would like to talk to you more. If that is what you wish, Caprice said politely. The woman nodded. They walked back to the foyer. During her stay, she avoided the topic of Princess Mariona. She was quite brief of her family in Meltrova, but never told her about her parents' deaths. Senor Pujadas left and went to the library. He opened the doors. Some of his guests looked in his direction. The rest continued conversing. I apologize for making you wait, gentlemen. Those who were not talking nodded their heads to accept his apology. And there I'm going to take a slight little break. Ooh, good timer. All right, let's get back to reading. Starting the fourth packet. Very exciting. Caprice was in her hotel room. She was figuring out what to do. Now that she had made friends with someone who has connections to her family, she wasn't sure what to do. All she could do would be to wait for Signora Fournier to send word. 2 days had passed, and she had not received a word from her. She walked to a chest full of hanging dresses. She idly looked at her dresses. After a few minutes, she gasped. If she were to meet the princess, she would have to wear something proper. The only dress proper enough had to be the one she wore to The only dress proper enough had to be the one she wore to Senor Pujadas's dinner. She sighed. Suddenly, there was a knock at her door. She rushed to the door and opened it. There was a young man. He held out a small silver plate showing 2 envelopes that had her name. Her eyes widened with surprise. She quickly grabbed her change purse. As she gave him 3 coins, she took her messages. Mercès, he thanked in Catalan. He looked at her curiously as she slowly closed the door, looking at her new messages. On one envelope, the handwriting looked like it had been written by a woman. The curves of each letter were feminine. The other looked like a man wrote it. Carefully written and in signature. She opened the message from the man. She gasped. It was a formal note. From Signor Baldwin. Miss Caprice, I would like it if you would join me for tea today. I need to show you something. Signed, Signor Cassius Baldwin. She checked the time on her bedroom clock. It was 35 minutes after 2. She gasped. That's hardly enough to change, she whispered. She bit her lower lip. It must be important to request me so soon. She decided not to change and left, locking her room. With her other message in hand, she rushed to the side of the hotel to get her chaise. She arrived at Signor Baldwin's house with 10 minutes to spare. Whew! Caprice knocked on the door. A servant answered. Why, Miss Caprice, I am glad you are back. Good afternoon, Lucia. The Signor said you might come over for tea. Come on in, please. Thank you, Caprice replied. She stepped inside and followed her friend to a room Signor Baldwin always took his tea. How was your week? Did you sell any dresses? Caprice smiled. My week is going... Well, it's going. I have not sold many dresses. A lot has happened this week. Did something exciting happen? You could say that, Louisa, she replied with a chuckle. What do you mean? Caprice smiled at her, being inquisitive. You shall find out in a few months, was her reply. They arrived at Signor Baldwin's usual tea room. I shall see you soon, Miss Caprice. Caprice smiled at her again. Then she entered the room. She looked round and spotted the Signor in his usual sitting chair. He looked so pleasant. He must be drinking chamomile tea, she thought. She smiled. Finally, he drinks chamomile. She walked up to him and sat down in a nearby chair. Good afternoon, Caprice, he whispered. It seems you brought something with you. What is it? She looked at her hand for a brief second. She gasped. I received a message along with yours. I have not read it yet. After I read your message, I wanted to visit. He smiled admiringly. You may read your message if you want. She thanked him. She opened the envelope and read her message. Dear Miss Caprice, I received word from Princess Mansion. She has heard little about your work, but nevertheless she is interested to see something. Come to the palace tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. I did my best to have the meeting later and at a suitable time, but that is the only time she is available. I shall see you then. Signed, Signora Aina Fournier. Caprice's pulse started racing. She was breathing heavily. He noticed her change. Caprice, are you well? Signor Baldwin asked with concern. She looked at him. And there I stopped. This is actually one of the most exciting parts of the book. One of the most exciting parts. Well, that gets me excited, I should say. So cool. So cool. I am excited. Are you guys excited? Let me know. Comment below. I do believe that's it. Unless I'm missing something I haven't told you guys. That I'm not going to tell you about. I suppose that's it. I will talk to you guys later. Possibly next week. This is the Esperanza 243. Signing out.
Sometimes I have dreams. I picture myself flying